All right, hey everybody, Teching 101 here. Welcome back to BAN-KAST. This will be covering episode 30 of the Thousand Year Blood War arc titled The Betrayer. Episode 31 is also out as of recording. It came out today, actually, so we are officially at the point where I am over 2 episodes behind on this. So I thought about skipping over 30 and then doing 31 and being like, I'll get to 30 later, but I tried that before and it didn't work out. So we're going to try to stay in order with this and get 31 out later this week. Okay, so at the end of the last one, we had a nice episode that showed us a little bit more of Ukitake's backstory. That was really cool, expanding a little bit more on the powers of the right arm of the Soul King. And at the end of the episode, Ukitake explains the Kamekake, kind of the process of the ritual of the right arm essentially taking over Ukitake's body, and then that shooting up to the Soul Palace where it grabs onto the Rayo's like crystal exoskeleton thing that he's got, kind of like holding him together, tethering him together. And you have this really cool scene here where the hand shoots out, grabs the Soul King. Yhwach is completely flabbergasted by this because he is unable to use the powers of the Almighty on body parts or aspects of the Soul King. So he was not able to predict the right arm, the Mimihage, getting involved and grabbing on to save the Soul King. And Yhwach actually even questions himself, like, is there some will of the Soul King inside of the right arm? So even Yhwach, who is the son of the Soul King, does not understand all the shit going on with the Rayo. He is still very much like kind of in the dark about this stuff, because it makes sense because his power cannot see this. Also brings up a question involving Yhwach's Almighty, but there's a lot of questions involving the Almighty, so we'll get to that when we get to that. But Yhwach's observing the Mimihage here, and he's like, yes, well, I know the Soul King's left hand governs advancement. Isn't that right, Pernita? Pernita's just in the background like, he's like, that's right. All right, so we know the right hand governs stillness. All right, and this is where he's kind of questioning, like, it looks like you've just about managed to hold on to your life, right? So is there some will of yours in there, or how does that work? So Yhwach is just kind of approaching the Mimihage in an attempt to just like, well, you know, I was planning on killing the Soul King and absorbing all of their power anyway, so the right arm being here, I mean, that throws a wrench in Yhwach's plan in that the Almighty could not predict that happening, but also it's not really a big deal in the grand scheme of things because Yhwach could be like, you know, I could just rip this off and absorb that. So, you know. So Ichigo is still there, rather encumbered by Yhwach's, like, blood influence on him. Like, his Blut Vena is, like, going out of control, and he can't really move. He has to use a little bit of his will to break away. Yhwach just kind of does this cool, like, it's honestly, it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Zaworldo from Stardust Crusaders, because everything kind of goes inverted a little bit when he uses it. He's just walking, kind of approaching, and everybody's just like, wait, no, stop, and Yhwach's just like, Zaworldo! And it's not stopping time, it's just a massive like impact that just knocks everybody back so they can't really approach Yhwach. So, Yhwach, he recovers from the shock of this pretty quickly. So, here's the question, all right? So, he reaches out to try to absorb the power of the right hand. Ichigo is struggling. He eventually manages to use his own Ryatsu, I suppose, to, like, break away, like, force out Yhwach's. Kind of similar to the way that Yhwach tried to invade Ichibe's body with his Blut, and Ichibe was just kind of able to just, like, tense his muscles and just break it forcibly out of him. Probably a little bit different here. It's kind of more probably like a Ryatsu tug-of-war going on inside of Ichigo. But he's able to break that away, and he drops Yhwach's sword that he used to cut open the Soul King's blood crystal thing, and now Ichigo's gonna go and stop Yhwach here. Now, and then here's Yoruichi's ass. Here's Yoruichi's ass for the episode. She goes to, you know, throw out her little magic talismans to create a barrier to protect the Soul King. Now, because Yhwach's ability, the Almighty, is explained to work like he can see all possible timelines kind of laid out before him. He uses the analogy of different grains of sand, and it's like, yes, I not only see one timeline, but all possible timelines and everything that will branch out from those timelines, all right? So, because he cannot see what's happening with the Mimihage, does that mean Yhwach is effectively flying blind here, essentially? Like, Yhwach could not have seen Ichigo breaking free of his Blut and grabbing his arm. Did he see Yoruichi pull out the crests and the ritual tags and using the barrier? Like, at what? Because this is all involving the Mime Hage. This, like, you know, Yoruichi would not be using the barrier thing to preserve the Soul King if the Mime Hage did not show up. That's the whole point of the thing, because Yoruichi says right here, is like, oh, hey, good job, Ichigo. If, you know, we don't know exactly what this is, but, you know, I mean, Yoruichi's a member of the Shihoin clan, one of the noble houses, and they have the godly gears and everything like that. They have some really cool equipment. I am sure that, just as Uketake explained with all the noble clans and everything like that, Shunsui's clan as well, they kind of knew the legends and lore around the right and left arms of the Soul King and all the different body parts of the Soul King. So I'm sure Yoruichi is fully aware of this. She might have not believed in it. Maybe she did. Who knows? But the fact of the matter is the right arm is right here preserving the Soul King, and the world has stopped shaking. So it's stable, at least for right now. So Yoruichi's like, okay, I'm just going to use this cool ability to cover the Soul King in this shell, and then I'm also going to create like this Kido-esque barrier around the Soul King to protect him, and we're just going to, I guess, keep things like this. Like, why not? If it's stabilizing the world, we'll just keep it in stasis like this. I'm sure this is a very, very powerful barrier, probably like the strongest barrier the Shihoin clan is capable of casting with their godly gears and stuff. Obviously, Yhwach breaks it later, no problemo, but who knows? I mean, like here's the question. Would this have worked? Like, let's say Ichigo just kills Yhwach right here. Ganju strangles all the members of the Quincy Royal Guard. It's Ganju versus Gerard, and he beats them all, and then, like, they just win the day right here, and Uryu is like, oh, yeah, guys, I was just a double agent the whole time. Don't worry about me. I'm back on your side. I was going to have to do this whole subterfuge thing to try to bring them down from the inside, but you guys had Ganju, so you saved the day. Let's say all of that happened. Would this have actually worked and maintained balance as the new Reo? I'm under the impression it wouldn't have, because it's kind of tethered to Uketake, and the Mimi Hage is getting power from Uketake, and so I guess it would last as long as Uketake's Ryatsu would go for. And it was mentioned earlier, Uketake has a decent amount of Ryatsu just because he was like, you know, he's a sickly, frail guy physically, but he was able to, you know, rise to the rank of captain, and he had, you know, a really powerful Zanpakuto, and we never saw the Bankai of that thing, but like, whatever. So the idea is it would have lasted a little while. Not very long, though. Probably would have lasted, like, not, like, a tremendous long amount of time, but it would have maybe given them some time to figure something else out. Or would have Uketake just become, like, the new Soul King? Would his body have just gotten, like, sucked up into the Soul Palace, and then it became the new Reo? Interesting. Not really sure. At any rate, things don't go that way, of course. But it's a pretty cool barrier technique that Yoruichi uses here. And then, I love that. Ganju is like, yay! Yay, that's it! Yatta! You did it! Good job, Yoruichi. Man, we're gonna call it a day here, right? Okay, so Ichigo breaks free, and so now he's confronting Yhwach here. And just like, okay. But, unfortunately, this doesn't last very long because Uryu shows up, fires an arrow at Yoruichi. I guess this is the kind of spell that Yoruichi has to have, like, constant concentration, because one arrow from Uryu was enough to kind of shatter the barrier. Like, as soon as she got shot in the back from Uryu, that was enough to crack the barrier apart, and it's like, that's not good. Or maybe she was, like, in the middle of casting the spell, so she had to do, like, the hand signs and maintain focus or something, and it broke. So that's not great. Now, let's talk about the shining moment of this episode in so many ways. All right. Do you know how the battle between Ichigo and Uryu goes in the manga of this scene? Uryu shoots the arrow at Yoruichi, then shoots another arrow at Ichigo. Ichigo kind of bats it away with his Zanpakuto. They have a little back and forth exchange. You know, do you have any idea why all of us are here? We assembled here today. You were the last Avenger, Uryu. Why? You know, so we have that, and Uryu's like, oh, just because I'm a Quincy, of course. That's the reason why I'm doing this. That's all I have to tell you, right? And then he shoots a bunch of arrows that destroy the floor that Ichigo is standing on. Ichigo falls from the Soul Palace, and then Uryu fires another arrow that we can assume hits Ichigo and kills him. It obviously doesn't, but that's what he does. And then Uryu has an exchange with Lilia Barrow and is like, oh, you know, they can't possibly survive this fall. Even if they did, they have no means of getting back up here, but I'll kill them anyway. So in the manga, Uryu destroying the ground underneath them and firing a singular arrow at Ichigo that none of them, I guess, I guess it hit him, but that's enough to convince the elite Sternritters, specifically Gerard Valkyrie, to be like, good job, new guy. I knew you had it in you. I wasn't exactly sure about you being one of us. But when you destroyed the floor underneath Ichigo and fired one arrow at him that probably killed him, I know you're one of us now. And there's also the scene there where the elite Sternritters, Gerard, Lilia, and Askin, I don't think Pernita was part of that group in the manga, they are here, show up to confront Ganju, Chad, and Orihime. And they kind of strike a battle pose and get into, like, fighting formation, and that's all we see of that fight. We don't even, I think, see them fall off the Soul Palace. I think, like, we see Ichigo fall off, and it's implied that they all fall off, and then they get saved later, and we'll see what happens there. Actually, in the next episode, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, that's all we get in the manga, and it was pretty lame. Even I remember back when I was reviewing it weekly, back in probably 2015, I remember thinking it was pretty lame that, like, this is the exchange between Ichigo and Uryu, this is their big fight. It's not really a fight. It isn't a fight. It is not a fight. It's Ichigo shouting at Uryu, Uryu calmly responding, and then destroying the floor. That's what it is, okay? There is one more scene here. Oh, that was a badass shot of Yhwach. Where, oh yeah, there it is, where Pernita shows up behind Yoruichi and uses the power of the compulsory to completely contort and destroy Yoruichi's left arm there, which is a freaking disturbing scene. Like, Pernita's stuff is, especially the crackling, is the thing that bugs me. You know, I just got finished seeing Smile 2. Like, I literally watched Smile 2, and then I'm here, you know, doing BAN-KAST, and that movie also has some pretty grisly body horror, so, yeah. So anyway, this episode goes the extra mile, the extra 1,000 miles, and is like the Proclaimers, you know, and they go for it. And we actually not only see Ichigo fighting Uryu in full glory, and we get a pretty solid fight from both of them, but we also see Orihime, Chad, and Ganju square up against the elite Sternritters, which, you know how the fight's gonna go. That's not like some kind of like, what? You mean Chad's gonna get a victory on Askin Naklevar? It's like, you know how it's gonna go. But I appreciate the fact that they did it. You know what I mean? So that's something that's definitely better than the manga here, okay? So let's get right into it. Why are you siding with them? I'm a Quincy. Oh, by the way, awesome soundtrack playing in the background here. It's the same theme. It's a newer theme that was not in the original Bleach anime. It's a theme that plays, well, it's a remix of one of the ones that was in the old Bleach anime. But it's the theme that plays when Mayuri and Nemu were going up against Bambietta and Giselle, and they were using the Reishi locking devices to delay the bombs. It's a really good soundtrack. Really enjoy it, right? So we get both of these fights kind of at the same time, so we'll be switching back and forth between them. Gerard is walking out. He actually does say this in the manga. He says that, like, oh, I thought this was a threat against His Majesty, but these are just nobodies. And it's like, don't underestimate us. It's like, okay. And so fight with Uryu starts. Uryu does not even use his bow at the beginning. It's like Uryu knows Ichigo's going to expect that. Ichigo's not dumb, okay? Ichigo actually, I love Ichigo in the sense that he does not fit the kind of, like, not necessarily stupid, but not exactly smart protagonist. Like, Naruto can be kind of dumb sometimes. Asta can be kind of dumb sometimes. Luffy can definitely be kind of dumb sometimes. Uryu knows that Ichigo is a smart guy, and he's like, all right, he's going to expect me to just start launching arrows at him. So Uryu goes close quarters with this. He gets right up and close personal with Ichigo, and he starts whipping out, you know, Reishi attacks, and just like kind of like Reishi, kind of like not really Seele Schneider blades, but kind of something similar, where he's like just whipping arrows at Ichigo, like, close range. And they even have, oh, that's a cool shot right there. A lot of the animation in this episode is brilliant. So there's even one moment, I don't know if I could freeze frame it here, but they, like, shoulder check one another. That's really cool. Yeah, right there. Yeah, it's the shoulder check. It's like, boom, boom. It's like, we used to be friends, Uryu. I know, but we're not anymore. Bam, bam. We're shoulder checking each other. It's time to fight, right? Okay. So then Uryu goes into the air, uses leaked ray gun, shoots a bunch of arrows at Ichigo. They fall to like a lower basement level of the inner palace. This is where the Soul King keeps his antiques collection. I don't know, but they're down there having their fight. And Ichigo is able to use some blute here, and then he's able to pin Uryu. And of course, Ichigo is not going to deliver the coup de grace. Obviously, Ichigo is not going to be like, all right, I knew it was going to come to this, Uryu. Just stab him right there. By the way, I don't know if he could have done that because Uryu also has Blute and he's really skilled as well. But let's say Ichigo actually went like the full on and he's like, well, Ishida, we've had like 2 encounters with you right now. We had an encounter with you in the Soul Palace where you left, and then you have an encounter here where you're attacking us. It's very clear that you cannot be saved, so I'm just gonna kill you right here. Uryu's entire plan would have went out the fucking window if Ichigo was like, all right, I have to do this. Wait, no, Kurosaki, no, it was just a punch. Ah, no, I'm sorry, Uryu, I'm sorry. Like... But that doesn't happen, of course. Uryu is smart enough to realize that, like, okay, Ichigo's not gonna try to kill me here. He's gonna try to knock me down and then, grab me and be like, why are you doing this? And so Uryu is like, well, hey, I am a Quincy, and there is no need for Soul Reapers. And then he activates his Volt Stern Dick. He activates his holy form. And somebody brought it up, and I went back in the very first episode of the Core 3 of episode 27 when he's fighting Shutara. He's like, oh, you didn't talk about Uryu going into his Volt Stern Dick. And I'm like, I kind of missed that. I went back and checked. I'm like, yeah, he got like flickery wings, I guess, but it wasn't a very unique holy form. So I was like, oh, that's all his holy form is? Just some kind of like, sparky wings coming out of him? That's it? So at least, no, that wasn't his final holy form. That might have been like the flux state of it, considering like it was just awakening to Yhwach's powers kind of thing. But no, we get his real Volstern Dick here, and oh my god, it is looking pretty damn fly, I have to say. It's looking cool. So Uryu has these neat little gauntlets on his wrists and on his legs, and he gets this cool little arrow crest thing on his kind of like his lapel, kind of like it's like a military symbol or sigil, kind of something like that. And then he has these cool streamlined wings that kind of they all kind of bear the exact same kind of motif with like these 3-pronged like arrows or like feathered like fletched arrows and stuff like that, right? It's a pretty cool design. He does not have the halo. So that's interesting. Every other Volt standing has the halo, but Uryu does not here. And we do not have a name for it, unfortunately. But it's a very elegant, streamlined thing that I think fits his character extraordinarily well. So let me know down below what is the name of Uryu's Volt Sterndict, of his holy form. So Ichigo's just looking at him like, oh my god, he's so cool now. He's so cool. And I gotta honestly say, guys, the ability that Kubo wrote for Uryu's power, this is unique. This is different. This is something interesting. This is Uryu basically getting like probably well over 100 of these things. They're little arrows that are like drones that just kind of fly around him. And it's sort of like Senbon Zakura, just a little bit like Senbon Zakura, where, Byakuya kind of directs all the blades with his hands and everything. So they may be inspired by that a little bit. They are different, though. They're not just like Cherry Blossom razor blades. These things are pretty multifaceted. You could do a bunch of shit with them. They're basically like, imagine each of those things as like different building blocks or connectors to a puzzle. So Uryu can have individual ones, like create little like needles to like stab his opponent. Uryu is also training to be a doctor, and I couldn't help but think that like each of those things, those needles coming out, were like syringes. So maybe Uryu in some way could like inject something into his enemy, like poison or something. I mean, he is training to be a doctor or something, or hit like pressure points on the body. Yeah, maybe that's possible. But they can also like connect together to form like a sphere to like trap the enemy in. They can form together to make a giant fuck off arrow that he can just like fire at somebody. So Uryu is a very tactical, smart guy, so it's cool that he has an ability like this. These are the Sankotsu no Jufu. All right, these are the different like ritual tags that Yoruichi's using. One of them says Earth Gate, one of them says Iron Gate, and then there's another one. So there's actually a really cool way where you can take like a screenshot of these interstitches on the episodes and use like an AI program to just translate what they mean. And I've been actually doing that with the previous one. Haven't done it with this one yet, but I should be doing that in the future to actually read these and what they actually mean. And then there's of course Ganju Shiba, where we know who Ganju Shiba is. By the way, Ganju's honestly the MVP of this episode. I'm saying it right now. Uryu, sure, whatever, I guess, but like no. Ganju though. Okay. So we're cutting back down to the research and development division, where Rukia is, questioning so many things about her life right now. She finally becomes the lieutenant, guys. She finally achieves the status. She gets Kayen's position, and she's there with Uketake, and she's like, all right, everything's gonna be okay. And then these Quincy's attack, and then this happens to her captain, and she has no damn... Uketake did not brief her on any of this. She has no idea what the hell is going down. Poor Rukia. They mentioned that the Shutara level is beginning to become unstable again. So kind of the same thing that kind of kicked off the entire arc with the hollows disappearing and everything. But Urahara kind of assures them that, like, no, it's not the exact same thing that's going on. And he goes a little bit into the lore. But, like, Urahara is very much like, this is kind of out of his depth a little bit. Because he's like, yeah, I don't know that much about this, guys. We're kind of going footloose and fancy free here into the realm of, like, myth and legend of the Soul Society. So it's like, yeah, I remember that the Soul King's right arm governs stillness, I guess. So that's probably what this is, but I don't really know what's going on here. But I know that Uketake's, his body might be the one that's supporting this. That's his Ryatsu that's running this. So what happens when Uketake's Ryatsu runs out? Does that mean he becomes the new Ryo, or does that mean he just dies and this whole Kamekake process comes undone? Uehara does not know, and it's just like, we need to figure out what we're doing now. We need to take this opportunity to get to the Soul Palace as quickly as possible, because we just don't know how long this is going to last. By the way, jumping ahead here to the next episode, because I have watched it, there is a scene here pretty soon where in the manga, Mayori's basically going to pull out a Deus Ex Machina in order to get them to the Soul Palace, or help them get to the Soul Palace. They change it in episode 31 to what it is, and it was such a good change. I'll get to it when I cover episode 31, but I just want to say, very welcome change to what happened in the manga. Okay, so Ichigo is looking on dumbfounded at, let's be honest here, pretty damn cool release form. You know what? I'll wait until we get to it in this episode. You know what? I'll just wait for it, because it's a pretty interesting scene, and I was really expecting if they were going to go there. Okay, but we'll see when we get there. Try to predict what I'm going to say. But anyway, so yeah, Quincy Holy Form, these individual arrows fire off, and they're independent somewhat of Uryu. I mean, Uryu can direct them with his hands and stuff, but they seem to also kind of go on their own. They knock away one of Ichigo's Zangetsu, so he has to go pick that one up. Also, I understand now why Ichigo's Ryatsu has been yellow for a while now, because in the original Bleach anime, it was a blue Ryatsu. Like, whenever he used Getsuga Tensho in Shikai, it was always a blue Getsuga. And they changed that to yellow here, and I'm glad they did, because Uryu's, Ryatsu's obviously blue, because that's, like, the main color of the Quincy's, like, blue or white. So, like, just the clash being more dynamic in terms of, like, contrasting colors, it would just be blue on blue, right? So we see here the multifacetedness of this ability, where the individual, like, arrows can, like, create these little spiked needles. I wonder if Uryu learned that from Shutara. Maybe not. So Ichigo's dodging all that, and then we cut back to Ganju's epic technique. They went back and they went through all of the old techniques that Ganju used against Yuma Chika way back in the Soul Society arc, and I applaud them for that. I really do. There's a video game. There's a Bleach game I used to play all the time. It's Bleach Dark Souls on the Nintendo DS. Really good fighting game. And I know the new Bleach game is coming out, and I'm going to definitely pick that one up when that's released. But, dude, I remember going through that game in free mode and just playing as every single character and trying to get, like, perfect 100% in each and every one of them, right? And I actually picked it up not long ago and was able to do it with, like, some really weak characters. Like, Cone is one of the weaker members in that game, and then there's, like, a generic Squad 11 soldier you can play as. But, yeah, these are Ganju's moves from that game and also from the anime, like, Shiba-style shooting flower, and so he just shoots a bunch of fireworks at the elite Stern Ritters, and they're just like, wow, this is pretty. This is nice. I can imagine Askin kind of just being like, hey, this is kind of nice, guys. Why don't we just chill out and enjoy the fireworks a little bit? Askin would definitely be the one that actually would just kind of chill. Gerard is, of course, this is pointless. This is just a distraction. One swing of my sword is able to just break away all the smoke and fireworks, which it does. Orihime steps up and uses Santen Keshun, but I think it's actually the square version. It's the square hole that she uses here. So she uses, it's a technique that she utilizes against Ganju in the Lost Shinigami arc. I don't think it's the same technique, though, where she combines Tsubaki in with the other three fairies that make the Santen Keshun to kind of make a blast shield. So, like, Ganju attacked her, and then the attack is forced back. So this is just a square version of the Santen Keshun with an additional member of the Shun Rika, and that, like, was able to, like, redirect the swing from Gerard, which is no easy feat. I mean, like, you know, this is an attack, a swing from one of the elite Sternritters. This is the miracle we're talking about. I'm sure that Gerard was not really giving it all into this swing, because he's like, oh, I'm just blowing away some, you know, fireworks and smoke, and, like, I'm not going to go full power on that. But still, Orihime was able to block the attack and redirect it long enough for Chad to bust out Brazo Izquierdo del Diablo, which he's used, like, so many times now. Like, I give it to Chad. He's jumping to his, I mean, he doesn't really have very many techniques. He's basically got his right arm attack and his left arm attack, and that's kind of it. But hey, he's jumping right to his strongest offensive attack each time. Granted, I don't know if he has any other offensive attacks, but this is the one that he likes to use. So he goes up and tries to just kind of punch the air and kind of just creates a distraction. I mean, he doesn't, like, directly punch any of the Sternritters. He just kind of punches in front of them. They don't even move. It just kind of creates a little bit of another dust cloud. But that's okay, though, because this gives Ganju time to shine. Ganju busts out Renkan Sapasen! And it's basically the quicksand technique. He uses this against Yumachika back in the Soul Society arc. And it creates a massive sand pit that begins to suck them all down. And here's the thing. This sounds like a very clever idea because they're in the Soul Palace, right? And there's, like, nothing beneath them except just a straight shot all the way down to the Soul Society. So it's not a bad idea for about 2 seconds. And after about 2 seconds, you realize, oh shit, they can fly. Wait a minute, guys. We're standing in the Soul Palace right now. There's nothing below this. If I use my Renkan Sapasen and then create, like, a quicksand pit, they'll fall through the palace and then go straight down and die. Woo! Instant kill! Oh shit, right, they have wings. Forgot about that. Alright, well, if they didn't have wings, that might have been a cool thing to try. Oh, okay. Well, they have wings, so yeah, they just fly up. And by the way, once again, I want to bring up different designs of the wings in the manga. In the manga, they only just have generic feathered wings, kind of like Gerard's. Gerard's wings are the same, except they're red. I think it's just like, you know, bluish white wings in the manga. Pernita's arms he has hand wings, which I find very funny. And then Lilia's are indicative of his, like, light form that he goes into later in his Voltsterndick. And then you also have Askin's little lines. And this is not his full form, because he has a fuller form that he goes into later against Urahara. But, like, it's pretty cool. They gave them unique stern designs and in the holy halo and all that stuff. By the way, Lilia is like, that is something to praise. Is it, though? Lilia, I think, is just given, like, alright, guys, they tried their best. Ganju really, we don't even know what that guy is doing here, but he really tried his best. He went in with all of his moves, what he could do, and that's what he came up with, and Lilia gives him some praise. Is it deserved praise? I don't know, but it's praise. So, yeah. And Askin's just like, you're gonna die. And Pernita's like, yes, I agree. Okay, and then they just look up like, oh, well, hey, okay, is that not the look of, we're out of ideas now? Is that not the look of, we're out of ideas? All right, I'm gonna throw this out there at you guys. I'm gonna throw this out there at all the people watching and listening to BAN-KAST right now. Definitely not all together, because all of the elite Sternritters working together are a powerhouse. But from what we know about their individual battles later, like how Pernida is ultimately defeated by Mayuri, and how Gerard is defeated. Defeated with Gerard. Okay, how Askin is defeated by Urahara, let's say with that. Because even Lilia is not really defeated by Shunsui, just kind of very weakened by Shunsui. And now, is there any of these elite Sternritters that if Ganju, Orihime, and Chad teamed up and were smart and used their full suite of abilities, could have actually defeated and made it make sense in the story without being a massive, just like, Chad one punches Gerard and he explodes? Because obviously that'd be dumb if that happened. But is there any of them they could actually have gone up against? And if that's not the case, how about regular Sternritters? Like, could Chad have beaten, like, Jerome Geisbat, the Roar? Yeah, I think he could have. I think Chad could have beaten Sternritter R. Could Orihime have defeated, I don't know, Nyanzel, Weisel, Sternritter W, the Wind? Maybe, yeah. Could have Ganju have beaten? Maybe one of the Sternritter Wise. Maybe if Ganju fought against Lloyd turns into Ganju. Maybe Ganju could have beaten him. Maybe, yeah, let's give it to him. Let's give him something. But, you know, they tried. All right. So now we get to the moment where Yhwach is approaching his father, and he begins to rip the power of the Mimehage off and begin to absorb it there. And yeah, this is when Ukitake starts going into like seizures. He starts to freak out. He's flatlining, guys. It's not looking good, right? But Ukitake's still fighting. I imagine it's like in a mental scape right now. In their inner world, it's just a massive tug of war from Ukitake's side to Yhwach's side, and the Mimehage is the rope that they're just pulling on, right? No, you can't have it. No. Yhwach's like, come on, just give it to me, come on. It's just like, no, it's mine. It's like, yeah, not working. But he's fighting, he's trying. There's a fight going on in there, okay? Going back to Uryu and Ichigo's fight, launching a bunch of different techniques. There's a really cool, like, sphere ability that Uryu uses here. Traps him in this sphere. The conversation continues as well, and he's just like, you know, I thought it was once possible for Shinigami and Quincy to work together, but everything changed when I read my grandfather's diary. By the way, somebody actually pointed this out. I did not notice this. Somebody pointed it out. You can see Adonais. You can see the name of the Soul King written right there over the little illustration of the Silburn. It says Adonais, and it was there the whole time, and we never knew it. Kubo mentioned this in a Club Outside post, that he gave the name of the Soul King to the anime staff, and it's just kind of like, you guys, you know, if you find a place to put this in, put it in. And they put it in there, nobody noticed, and then, because it is a little bit faded, and, you know, but then they used it when they actually mentioned the Soul King's name, so that's something there. But he's like, yeah, I thought at one point Quincy's and Shinigami would have been able to be together, but we all know, of course, that they can't be, so that's why I'm doing this right now. And this is honestly like a thing where, once again, in the manga, he just kind of says we're Quincy's and that's it. But here, he does bring up a good point. He's like, you know, every single time these, you know, fights occur between the Shinigami, the Quincy's are the ones that bleed all the time. It's almost like the universe is kind of rejecting us, kind of a thing, which is, it makes sense given the whole relationship between Yhwach and the Soul King. So we all know that Uryu is a double agent here, working alongside. He has his own plan to bring down the Vandenreich and all that kind of stuff. And it's not time for that yet, so he has to show that he's on their side, kind of thing, right? And he has to come up with an explanation. But I'd say it's like, you know, with Ichigo, it's like, Ichigo, listen, you're a Shinigami and I'm a Quincy. You do not know the long, storied history between the Shinigami and the Quincy. That is why I'm doing this. You just don't understand, and that's why we're fighting right now. That's kind of where it comes down to. I could not forget the people who took everything from me. All right. This is a really cool technique where all of those different, like, arrows, drones kind of thing form this cool little sphere. Ishida! Boom! And then it blows up in the shape of the five-pointed cross. That is a cool move. It's not named, but there's another name coming up here that the final attack that Uryu uses. So here's Gerard, like, so what's the matter, guys? You're not attacking? You know, if you're not attacking, we can attack. That's just how that goes. So they begin their attack there. And then we cut back here. Now, there is a moment here. Uryu charges up his ultimate final arrow. He takes all of the different arrow drones together and forms like the big arrow. And that technique is called Sternenstab or Sternenstaben or something like that. It's stardust in German. And so he's using that technique. And there is a moment here. I don't know if I'm the only one that thought it. Are they going to have Ichigo go fucking Bankai here? Because, you know, the only time Ichigo goes Bankai with his new dual swords, it immediately gets broken by Yhwach. And we don't really ever even get to see in the manga the full extent of what he can do with that version of the Bankai. Okay, his cool little new Bankai that has like the scabbard over it, you know, it has kind of the form of the original Shikai. He uses it to defeat Yhwach ultimately, but we just don't get to see all of what he can do, and that always pissed me off, and that pissed a lot of people off, and it gets immediately shattered by Yhwach. So I'm like, this would be so cool if Ichigo right here. And I think this expression, he was considering it. He was considering it. But the thing is, if Ichigo went Bankai against Uryu, that would basically mean he had to kill his friend. I think Ichigo is ruminating on that right now, and he's like, what am I doing? Am I going Bankai and fighting my friend to the death? Like the actual death, like he's gone, I'm killing him? Or am I just am I just not going to go Bankai, not use my full power? Because we know Ichigo has his hollow abilities and he can combine Gran Rey Sero with his Getsugo. We know some moves that Ichigo's capable of right now that he's not using. So he's thinking about it, but ultimately he does not want to kill his friend. He uses Jujisho again. So these attacks clash and kind of disperse one another. It's like a little bit of a beam struggle very briefly. Those attacks kind of cancel each other out. We have Yhwach absorbing the power of the Mimehage here. Uryu creates another arrow and a bow, and he's going to deliver the final attack coming up here in a second. Ichigo, once again, like, this is going to be the moment. Is he going to shout Bankai and go full on? He chooses ultimately not to. Uryu fires the arrow, and boom. Goes straight through Ichigo. His, like, right side of his body. Not quite into his chest, like where his heart is, but certainly, like, one of his lungs is definitely wrecked from this. Now, Uryu knows that Orihime's powers exist. So I'm assuming that's what Uryu is debunking on here. Like, all right, I gotta make this look real believable here. And, yeah, Orihime should probably be able to heal this. I hope she can. Okay, fires the shot right through Ichigo. And Ichigo falls down, which makes way more thematic sense than just shooting out the ground from underneath him and firing one arrow at him that he just grabs and blocks. You know, this at least looks like a mortal injury, and Ichigo's bleeding pretty bad, and he's fallen down. And Uryu's just like, ah, yes, well, that was it. And we also see Gerard in the background kind of like, ah, good job, newbie. I knew you had it in you. So that makes a lot more sense than just firing the ground out. So there you go. All right, yeah, you now have the acknowledgement of Sternritter M. the Miracle, who, I mean, that's the guy you need. Oh, yeah, Hashwalth was also here the whole time. What was he up to? I think there was just one scene where he was just kind of watching the fights. Didn't really get involved. It's okay, Hashwalth. Your fight with Basby's coming up soon. Don't worry about it. Hashwalth's like, I still don't trust him. I still don't trust this Uryu guy. Yeah, he had a really cool fight with his friend, and he blasted a hole right through him. But, like, yeah, Hashwalth was never going to trust Uryu. That was never going to happen, right? He's like, yeah, it's not happening. But we get the ending credits here, and we have, the title, Bleach, The Betrayer. By the way, I love the ending theme. I love the ending theme and also just the shots of, like, everybody here. Like, look at this shot of Hashwalth, covered in flames, Basby there, all the different fragments of the Bambis, and then just Uryu and Ichigo there on opposite sides. Really, really encapsulates this. So we do get kind of an end credits, sort of post-credits sequence here, where Yhwach does succeed in absorbing the Soul King's right hand. We have a moment where it's like, oh, you've trying to absorb me into yourself as well. How childish. You cannot do that, right? You are so inferior compared to me at this point. So there is some resistance there from the Mimehage and I guess Uketake as well. But it ultimately is is futile because Yhwach absorbs the power. And there's actually a really cool ritual moment here where the different members of the Royal Guard all form their powers together and kind of unify, like, give me your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. And so Uryu, Pernida, Lilia, Hashwolf, Gerard, and Askin all form their, like, Quincy swords together. Pernida's sword is just kind of floating over them because, you know, Pernida is a left arm, doesn't really have individual hands, except in that one shot in the manga where they did have an individual hand, but whatever, we don't talk about that. And so the little sword just kind of floats above Pernida's head and kind of gives, you know, Yhwach some extra power, some extra juice in the form of this sword that he then uses to slice apart the Soul King. The crystal shatters. We see the Soul King's... I guess the Soul King doesn't have a dick. In case you were curious, Soul King doesn't seem to have a dick anymore. So that's that. And now begins to absorb the powers in its fullest state. Okay, and that's going to take a little bit to kind of balance out. We're going to see that in the next episode. But yeah, that is effectively the end of the episode as we see the power begin to bubble out from Yhwach. And we see the different eyes open. Like, what form will Yhwach take now? And that will be to the next episode, and that will be Bleach against the Judgment with a cool little Quincy arrow through that. The Avatar arrow facing through that. All right. That was episode 30. Really good, really solid one. That fight with Uryu and Ichigo, man, that made it for me. Really nice to see the Voltstern dick there. I got to see some shots with Ganju, which was awesome. And we'll be following this up with episode 31 this week sometime. Hopefully I'll get that out before episode 32 is out and we can get back on schedule. That'd be good. But anyway, thanks for watching and supporting BAN-KAST. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel BAN-KAST, my main channel Teching 101. We also have this on Spotify, Google Play, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think Uryu's Voltstern dick would be named below, and also if there's which Stern Ritter could Chad or Hime Ganju like defeat. Like how strong is they, like considering how their power level is right now? Where are they at necessarily? Thanks for watching. Teching signing out.